You got the raise, real one. Not a cost of living adjustment dressed up in an email with 3 exclamation points. An actual negotiated, you asked and they said yes raise, 12%. You remember the number because you calculated it 4 times in the parking lot before driving home. And 6 months later, nothing changed. Not the anxiety, not the balance on the 23rd of the month, not the specific familiar weight of knowing that one real emergency would still detonate everything. The number on the offer letter moved. The feeling didn't. You told yourself it was lifestyle inflation. You blamed yourself before anyone else could. That's how well trained you are. Here is the truth that the entire personal finance industry, the apps, the influencers, the bank-sponsored financial wellness content, has a structural incentive to never say directly, your paycheck is not the problem. The problem is what happens to your paycheck before it ever becomes yours. And in 2026, that process has become so efficient, so layered, and so deliberately invisible that a 12% raise can land without producing a single dollar of meaningful change. My name is Mia. I spent years inside financial services watching this machinery get built, refined, and quietly installed into the infrastructure of every working person's financial life. Today, I am showing you the ugly arithmetic of wages in 2026, and why the number your employer prints on your offer letter bears almost no relationship to the number that actually changes your life. The offer letter lie, let's start with the number itself. The median household income in America in 2026 sits at approximately $78,000. That is the number that gets cited in news articles, economic reports, and the occasional political speech about the strength of the American worker. $78,000. Here is what $78,000 actually produces. After federal income tax, state income tax, Social Security contribution, and Medicare contribution, the average household takes home somewhere between $52,000 and $55,000 annually. That is a reduction of between $23,000 and $26,000 before a single voluntary choice has been made, before rent, before food, before a single transaction you had any say in whatsoever. $53,000 a year, roughly $4,400 a month. Now rent. The median American household now spends approximately $1,500 to $1,800 monthly on housing. And that is the national median, which means half the country is paying more, down to $2,600 to $2,900. Transportation, car payment, insurance, gas, maintenance average together runs approximately $800 to $900 a month for a household dependent on a personal vehicle, which is the majority of American households, down to approximately $2,000. Food. The USDA's moderate cost food plan for a family of 2 adults in 2026 runs approximately $900 a month. Not restaurant meals. Groceries, down to approximately $1,100. Utilities, phone, internet, conservatively $350, down to approximately $750. $750 on a $78,000 income. For everything else, healthcare gaps, clothing, debt payments, anything that breaks, anything that happens, any version of a life that exists beyond the biological minimum of being fed and sheltered, that is not a spending problem. That is a structural collapse dressed in median income statistics. Why the raise didn't fix it here is the mechanism that makes the raise disappear. When your income increases, 3 systems activate simultaneously, and none of them are working for you. The tax system activates first. A 12% raise does not produce 12% more take-home pay. It produces less because portions of the new income push into higher marginal tax brackets. The raise is taxed more aggressively than the income it was added to, by design, by law, with no malice, but with real mathematical consequence that nobody explains at the moment you are celebrating. The lifestyle system activates second. Not because you are reckless, because you are human. The raise signals safety. The brain, exhausted from operating in scarcity mode, interprets the new number as permission to exhale. The apartment gets slightly better. The grocery list gets slightly less strategic. The "I've been putting this off" purchase finally happens. None of these decisions are wrong. All of them collectively consume the raise before it can become structural change. The debt system activates third, because the raise, if it becomes visible spending power, also becomes minimum payment capacity, and the credit card that was at the limit has room again, and the room gets used, and the balance returns to approximately where it was within 90 days of the raise landing. 3 systems, running automatically, consuming the raise before it can compound into anything. And not one of them required your permission to activate. The number behind the number here is the piece of data that should be on the front page of every financial news outlet in 2026, and is instead buried in academic labor economics papers. Real wage growth, meaning wage growth adjusted for actual inflation, not the official consumer price index, which systematically undercounts housing and healthcare costs, has been negative for the median American worker in 15 of the last 25 years. Negative. The paycheck got bigger. The number went up. And the purchasing power, what that number actually buys in the real world, at a real grocery store, with real rent and real utility bills, went down. You were not imagining it. The raise felt like nothing because, adjusted for what things actually cost, it was worth less than the raise you got 5 years ago, which was worth less than the one before that. The numbers keep going up. The life they produce keeps getting smaller. Meanwhile, corporate profit margins hit a 40-year high in 2024. Worker productivity, the output per hay hour of labor, has increased 32% since 2000. Worker compensation for the bottom 80% of earners has increased 8% over the same period. The gap between what workers produce and what workers are paid is not a natural economic phenomenon. It is a policy outcome, a series of choices made over decades by people in rooms that workers were not invited into, and it compounds, quietly, in a way that makes your raise feel inadequate without ever giving you a clean explanation for why. What you do with an ugly truth. I am not telling you this to make you feel powerless. I am telling you this because the alternative, believing that the raise will fix it, that the next promotion will fix it, that you are one income milestone away from the anxiety, finally stopping, is the belief the system depends on to keep you running the same track. The raise will not fix it. Not because you'll spend it irresponsibly, because 3 automated systems will consume it before you make a single choice. So you intercept it first. The moment a raise lands, before the lifestyle adjusts, before the tax recalculation settles, before the brain exhales into new spending, you move the difference. Not all of it, half, automatic transfer to a high-yield savings account on the same day the new paycheck first appears. The lifestyle never sees it. The lifestyle cannot inflate around money. It never encountered. 30% of the raise goes to the highest interest debt you carry. Not the largest balance, the highest interest rate. Because the interest rate is the drain, not the balance. 20% goes to the lifestyle, because you did earn it, because sustainable change is not deprivation, because the person who never gets to exhale eventually stops running entirely. That is the intercept. Not a budget, not a restriction. A sequence that runs faster than the 3 systems trying to beat you to your own money. You are not failing on a $78,000 income. You are operating inside a system that has been quietly, methodically, structurally extracting the difference between what you produce and what you receive for over 2 decades, and then handing you a budgeting app and calling it support. You are not behind. You've just been reading a map drawn by the people who want you lost. Hit subscribe, because next week I am going inside the specific products, the accounts, the fees, the fine print that are running silently in your financial life right now and costing you more than any lifestyle choice you've ever made. And I'll leave you with this. Your paycheck isn't the problem. The problem is every hand it passes through before it reaches yours. Start counting the hands.